My sister, Lucy, 38, has always wanted a big family. She and her husband, Tom, 40, had their son, Logan, now a tween, but due to complications, Lucy couldn't have more kids. Lucy was devastated. About 3 years ago, she and Tom decided to adopt. Tom never outright said he didn't want to go through with it, but it was clear to see he didn't care one way or the other and just wanted Lucy happy. Logan said he didn't want a sibling. Lucy brushed over all these concerns with the "they'll get on board eventually" attitude. Long story short, they were eventually matched with a boy, Jack, who's now a tween. Lucy said they all bonded, but Jack had behavioral issues, and whenever I saw them, I picked up on the fact that, over time, Tom seemed to be getting less and less keen. Many times when it was just adults, he commented on his worry that Jack had latent issues because of his traumatic past. Lucy adored Jack and rubbished these concerns. I brought up Tom's hesitation, but Lucy said it was just taking longer for him to bond. They officially adopted Jack about a year ago, and things have fallen apart since then. Jack's behavior has gotten a lot worse, or Lucy wasn't speaking about it as much before, but it's clear Tom's at his wit's end. According to Lucy, he works late constantly, and whenever Jack has a tantrum, he helps Lucy calm him down, then takes Logan and leaves the house. Logan now hates Jack and won't play with him, which causes more issues, and he started to act out. He spent his last school holiday with my family and is due to spend Christmas with us again, because even the family therapist says it's good for him to have some space. Having seen all this unfold has been heartbreaking. Tom and Logan look more miserable every time I see them, and though Lucy would never admit it, she does too. Whenever I speak to her, she talks about how hard it is, but always has Tom and Logan at fault. She's never taken any responsibility for the fact that she didn't listen to anyone's concerns. She called me a couple of days ago to discuss plans for Christmas, and when Tom would be dropping Logan off at my home, she again started ranting about how Tom had basically shut down at home with her and Jack, and how she thought he was going to leave. She calls him every name in the book, and then starts saying she was disappointed that Logan doesn't love Jack, and she can't believe she raised a bully. I lost it. I told her the real bully was her. She bullied her family into adoption as a form of wish fulfillment, and Tom shouldn't have indulged her, but most of the blame falls on her for destroying her family. She screamed and cried and eventually called me evil and hung up. My parents are now saying I was an idiot for telling her that, even though we all think it. I think she needed to hear it and stop blaming her own child for being unhappy while living in the chaos she created. Not the idiot. It sounds like no one ever told your sister no. It is understandable to have wants and expectations for your life, of course, but the Rolling Stones have said it best. You can't always get what you want. Instead of treasuring her biological son and being grateful for him, she tried to pivot and force that big family she always wanted by adopting, and no one had the guts to speak up then either. And even now, there's no culpability, ownership, or self-reflection. It's her son and husband's fault. It's unreal. I'm sure people will tell you you're the idiot for telling her and that you didn't need to do it, but I can't agree. She needed to hear it, and it was time she took some personal responsibility for her actions. Bingo. She adopted this child to satisfy her own sense of fulfillment instead of achieving fulfillment for herself as a whole person. These are valid, important reasons to adopt, but this situation ain't it. She's digging her own grave, I'm afraid, and the poor boy, Logan, he probably can't wait to be old enough to get away from his mother and adoptive brother. Everyone's the idiot here. You, Lucy, and Tom. I'll agree that Lucy played a big part in this and isn't holding herself accountable, but Tom is also at fault. While it might have been clear to you how he felt, you also admit Tom never vocalized his concerns and has been rather passive overall. They both played parts here. Couples are supposed to communicate, especially for important life-changing joint decisions, like adoption, and that didn't happen here. It's not fair to put all the blame on one or the other. So I have a 20-year-old daughter who's currently living with me rent-free while she attends college. When she moved back home, we made a deal where she could cook and clean the house as a form of payment for living here. She agreed to it, and we both thought it was fair. However, recently, she approached me and said that the cooking and cleaning are taking up too much of her time, making it hard for her to study and complete her homework. She asked if I could reduce the number of days she has to cook to give her more time for her studies. I told her that she should be grateful for the deal I offered her and that it's not that hard to do a few hours of chores compared to what many kids her age are going through. I pointed out that some of her peers are working 9 to 5 while going to school simultaneously, and I've given her the luxury of just handling some household chores in exchange for free housing. She ended up calling up her aunt, my sister, behind my back to complain about how I was treating her, and my sister called me and kind of went off on me, basically saying I'm being too strict and should listen to my daughter. Here's where I'm unsure if I'm being an idiot. I want to stick to our agreement, but my sister's words have me questioning my stance. Am I the idiot for not wanting to change the deal we initially made? I thought it was a fair deal. Edit. She only cooks breakfast and dinner 4 days out of the week for her 2 brothers and me. Her brothers are only 8 and 10 years old, so they can't really cook for themselves. You are the idiot for not listening properly to your daughter. You say many people do this, that, and the other. Well, your daughter's not many people. She's overwhelmed with the sum of her duties right now. She's just asking you not to have to cook some of the days of the week so that she may catch up on her schoolwork. Is that so terribly unreasonable? I don't think so. You could let her not cook on the weekend, and the whole arrangement could be evaluated in 3 months to see how it works for your family. That would be a reasonable arrangement. You sound like Cinderella's stepmother. This is your daughter who's attending college, and you're treating her like a full-time maid. You're not asking her to do some chores. You have her cooking and cleaning full-time for a family. That's a huge difference. At the very least, cooking needs to stop. You can cook for your children and clean up after them. Then, if you want to assign a list of weekly chores, fine. Things that are done once and completed until next week, but not daily cleaning up after 3 people. That's exhausting and that's your job. I honestly don't understand the mentality of, well, now you're 18, I won't help you anymore. Like it's ridiculous. My son is only 3, but wow, my husband and I will support him and help him for the rest of his life. We brought him into this world. It's kind of our job to help and support him. Plus, as parents, we only want the best for him. My parents still support my sister and me, and we're 24 and 30. As a parent, I'm so sad about these stories that I read. I guess some parents just view their kids as nothing more than people they can get stuff out of. It's really sad. My brother Frank, 40, was widowed 6 years ago. 2 years ago, he got remarried to Emily, 38 female. Frank has 3 children with his first wife, Ava, teen female, Noah, younger teen female, and Harley, tween male. Emily also has a son, younger tween male, and a stepdaughter from her ex-husband, whom she has custody of, older tween female. Frank and Emily started dating just before the pandemic hit. The kids were not aware of the fact that Frank was dating. He told them 2 months before the wedding. A month later, he announced he was getting married, and Emily and her kids were moving in. Frank's kids have adapted worse than Emily's kids. The kids have refused to take part in family activities, are distant and cold with Emily and her kids, and have yelled at my brother multiple times, accusing him of replacing their mom and saying, "Screw Emily. They don't care about Emily. They don't want Emily," etc. Frank, Emily, Ava, Noah, and Harley have started attending family counseling, 7-ish months or so now. They've seen 3 therapists thus far because the kids would sit and sulk, per Frank's own words, and would not open up or engage, and each time the therapist ended up just talking to Frank and Emily. Frank started to complain about how mad the kids were at him. He said they were selfish for expecting him to stay single for the rest of his life. He said he's tired of them making no effort to make the blended family work. He said he hates how they work against it and how people treat him like he made a mistake when he remarried. He wanted to know if he wasn't entitled to his happiness. etc. I listened to him vent countless times. Last time he told me he felt I had something to say and I should just say it. I told him his mistake was never in remarrying, but in how he did it. He only told the kids he was dating 2 months prior to the wedding, told them a month later that he was getting married and 3 people were moving in, and then married in that 2-month timeline when everything was still very new and strange to them. I told him most kids will struggle with the idea of a parent moving on after divorce or the death of their parent. That's why people usually spend years dating and getting the kids adjusted so they have time to process and work through their feelings, to work through the fresh wave of grief that hearing news like that would bring. I said dating and letting everyone get to know each other over a period of time and helping the kids through it are the best ways to make a blended family. He got mad at me and told me he shouldn't have to adjust his timeline for anyone, not even his kids. I asked him how he'd feel to hear Dad is dating someone 30 years after our mom died. He told me there's no way Dad would do that and screwing me for even suggesting it. I told him so he'd have a problem with it, but he can't understand his kids having a problem with him doing it. He told me it's not the same, and he's not judging Dad, but I'm judging him, and that makes me an idiot. He got mad and told me he shouldn't have to adjust his timeline for anyone, not even his kids. And now we know why his kids didn't say anything during their family counseling sessions. You are not the idiot. You hit the nail on the head. The kids still might have reacted poorly to this no matter what, but telling them 2 months before the wedding would never end well. That's a real, how did you possibly think this would go well story. Frank knows his kids aren't happy in their new blended family. He's just opting to blame his kids, not himself. Someone had to spell it out to Frank that he's the parent. The problem his kids have with being forced to suddenly deal with Emily and her kids living with them were caused by him, and he's just wasting time blaming his kids if he actually wants to make things better. Yeah, oh my. Okay, so lockdown made it tricky, but Frank and Emily could have at least introduced Frank's kids to Emily's kids. Bet you Emily told her kids she was dating again. He didn't even give his kids nearly enough time to adjust to the first change in their lives before he kept adding more changes. It makes it seem like he cares less about his children and their well-being than he does his own. He's a hypocrite to boot. My 35 male sister died 3 weeks ago. My wife had only met her once and she lived pretty far away, and every time I went to see her, my wife didn't come. My dad told me that she died and told me when her funeral was. I traveled down for the funeral, and I told my wife I was going to see my sister, which wasn't really a lie. A few days after I got back home, my brother called my wife and told her to check up on me since I hadn't been answering his calls and texts. I guess she asked why he was so worried, and my brother told her about my sister dying. My wife got really upset at me for not telling her, and she said that I couldn't trust her and that I should talk to her instead of bottling up my feelings. I explained that I didn't tell her because I knew she'd worry and expect me to talk about how I felt. It's very sweet of her to worry about me, but she doesn't need to. It's like she doesn't understand that I don't talk about how I feel, unlike her. She's barely spoken to me since she said that she feels betrayed. I didn't mean to upset her so much. I just didn't want to deal with her constant worrying. Am I the idiot? I don't want to deal with her worrying about my grief, so I'll make her and the rest of my family worry about the health of our marriage instead. God, right? Sorry for your loss, OP, but you are the idiot in this situation. I'm sitting here incredulous that this guy didn't think his wife should be included. What the heck? All I can assume is that they have an awful marriage. Why else would you exclude your spouse from a significant life event like this? By trying to avoid the situation, OP has created a new one, and worse. You can try to bury a bomb, but it'll still explode. Dude, how could you not tell your wife something as important as, my sister died? You got the news, made travel plans, traveled and went to a funeral, came home, and at no time told your spouse that a member of your immediate family passed away? Whether you were close to your sister or not, That's a significant thing to deal with without sharing it with your spouse. You lied by omission when you said you were going to see your sister and chose not to include that it was for her funeral. And if I were your wife, I'd wonder how many other major things you've chosen not to tell me. I can't imagine being so emotionally constipated that I don't even tell the person I'm supposed to love and trust as much as I would a spouse something like this. Yeah, my personal life isn't your business is an odd attitude towards one's wife. I don't think OP's trying to be an idiot, but man, get therapy. This is profoundly unhealthy, and it sounds like the wife just found out that the metaphorical house of their marriage, which she believed to be structurally sound, is 70% wood rot by volume. So I, 25 female, have been married to my husband for 3 years. I've known him since high school. I recently had a baby and we decided not to tell anyone the name till the baby was born. My stepsister was also pregnant. We both had very similar names in mind. I liked Mary Kay. My stepsister liked the name Mary Grace. My stepsister did choose the name first, but our names weren't identical. Still, she insisted I didn't use Mary Kay. We did anyway, and when I announced, my stepsister called us and had a cow. She said we disrespected her, knowing she picked the name first, and now she has to choose a new baby name on such short notice. We reminded her that the names aren't identical and there's no reason to change it, but she just got upset and hung up. Stepmom soon called us, backing up my sister, saying how childish we acted, keeping it a secret so we can get our way, and she wanted to use that name after her grandmother's death. They're all very upset with us. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You knew it was her chosen name, and you said she used it to honor her late grandmother. She certainly doesn't own the name, but if she made it known she had chosen it for sentimental and family reasons, you were very sly. You kept your baby's name a secret because you knew what you were doing was wrong. Lots of cousins have the same name when named after grandparents, and it's not even the same full name. Mary's also one of the most common names out there. My mother's sister and one of their cousins had that name. No one cared that my grandmother and her sister both had daughters named Mary. OP's not the idiot. To me, these two babies aren't even named the same thing, so I don't think anyone will make a huge deal out of it, especially since one was named after another family member. Baby name drama is always stressful. Listen, OP, the name is different, but you knew this would cause drama regardless. Why did you choose this name in particular? And Mary Kay? Really? Like the makeup brand? Are you stupid? It was not smart for you to use it as a name. Some names are too associated with brands and should not be used as names. Even nice names can be considered trashy once they become too associated with a brand.